Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Monday. Here we are once again.
Yep, we're going to review Sinners.
Yes, we just went and saw this yesterday in IMAX.
Yeah.
Which I would recommend. I know IMAX is very expensive, but...
No, see it in IMAX.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend seeing it in IMAX.
Or Dolby. It's very music heavy. It's got fucking awesome music. All right. This movie here, I'm going to hit close to home for me because, you know, my family's from Mississippi. You know, Heidelberg and Laurel. And this is taking place up near the Delta region in the 30s. And it's true to the South, man. This is a fucking Southern Gothic movie.
Big time.
It's got everything in it. Gangsters, the Klan. It's got voodoo. It's got blues music. It's got Irish music in it. And a fucking Irish vampire.
Yes.
Yeah. And,
who immediately starts making many other vampires.
Yeah. And main characters is that dude who played in Creed.
Yeah.
What's his name? Jordan?
Michael B. Jordan, yeah.
Yeah, he's playing two characters. Twins. Smoke and Stack.
Yeah.
And they went off to World War I at the infantry. They were fighting the Germans. And when they came back, it happened to a lot of World War I veterans. They didn't reintegrate real well, you know. There was like no job opportunities. So they ended up going to Chicago and working for the Italian mobs. And that's true to history there. A lot of veterans did that. A lot of black guys did that. They went to go work for, fucking rum runners, basically. Fucking gangsters, Al Capone type guys. These guys were evidently, the rumor was they worked for Al Capone. And things like that actually happened back in the 30s, 20s and 30s. And usually they were like bodyguards, drivers, bill collectors, enforcers. That's usually what they did. And you want to use veterans for that. And black dudes were tough, so they used them too. And another thing is that you could underpay them.
Yeah.
And
sadly true.
They were like the Irish, you know. You could underpay them too. You could work them to death. Which enter into this vampire named Rennick. Rennick or Remick?
I think it was Remick, yeah.
Remick, yeah. And you hear a little bit of his story. It's wild. It's a wild fucking flick. And it's got a lot of paranormal stuff in it. They set the story up that there's a certain kind of, like a bard or a shaman who's a musician who he can play so well that he can commune with the spirits of his ancestors both in the past and in the future.
Yeah, like piercing the veil.
He can pierce the veil of time, and they can come and you can commune with your ancestors and your descendants through music. And he doesn't come out and say it, but Remick the vampire must be one, because he's a musician also.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the implication.
And he chooses to go to this town in Mississippi. What was it called?
Clarksdale.
Clarksdale. Because there's a young black guy there named Preacher Boy.
Yeah, Sammy is his real name, but they call him Preacher Boy.
They call him Preacher Boy. His dad is a preacher there. Doesn't want him playing guitar.
Doesn't want him playing that devil's music.
Playing that devil's music. Well, the vampire is going to come meet with him. He's looking for him. He could hear him. And he wants to turn him into a vampire. So he could kind of absorb his musical skills. And he said he could give the gift back to him too. So I guess they could kind of exchange abilities. It's pretty fucking wild. And shit, maybe Jen could probably tell it a little bit better. But I was kind of blown away by it. It was very accurate. It was very accurate to Mississippi. And when I was a kid back in the 70s, I was looking at some of those old fucking tin roofed houses. They were huge. They were just looked like one family house, but it looked like you took a little house and made it bigger. That's how ridiculous they looked. I remember my cousin lived in one of them, and the hallway must have been 7-8 feet wide. I was like, this is a fucking hallway, and they were just kind of rooms. And anyway, I was looking at those fucking architecture in this movie. Man, I could remember some of the houses looking like that in Mississippi back in the 70s. They're all torn down now, but
Yeah, and I believe that they shot most of this movie in Louisiana.
Louisiana, yeah.
But it's, set in the Mississippi Delta, specifically in 1932.
Same terrain, same heat.
Yeah, so this is like Jim Crow era South, which plays a lot into the narrative. This movie was, written and directed by Ryan Coogler, who also did Creed. He also did
great movie.
He also did Black Panther, and I think he also did Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
I didn't see those two.
So this movie, this is like the first original one that he did, because I think his first movie I think was Fruitvale Station, and I think that was based on a true story. And then obviously Black Panther, that's Marvel Universe, and then he did Creed, which was kind of in the Rocky universe. So this is like his idea. This is an original idea, and this movie was magnificent.
Yeah,
it 10 really, out of 10. It really, really was. And like,
is he a black director?
Yeah.
Okay, well that explains it, because some of the best vampire movies was actually Blackula and Scream, Blackula Scream. The stories in those actually inspired Anne Rice.
Yeah,
and she was also Southern, so there's a big Southern vampire lore thing, and the movie's true to vampire lore. It's good.
I kind of like that they stuck with original vampire, like old school vampire stuff.
Well, Dracula, was written by an Irishman.
True.
So that's more Irish stuff, and this is an Irish vampire, so it's the Bram Stoker's rules.
Yeah.
Basically.
Like I said, old school vampire rules.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so I'm going to say that the only thing that I would... Everybody that told me to see this movie, because I managed to not see any trailers for it or anything, because I try to avoid seeing like anything that's going to ruin the experience of the movie for me. So I managed to not see any trailers, but every single person that recommended this movie to me said, don't watch any trailers, don't read anything about it, just go see it.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad they did, but I think that the trailers spoil that it's a vampire movie.
Yeah.
Kind of much like Abigail did, I guess.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that...
Doesn't feel like a vampire movie. It feels like a gangster movie.
I'm going to say it's kind of like the vampire stuff doesn't really come into play until... this is a long movie. It's like 2.5 hours. Mm-hmm. So it's like the vampire stuff doesn't really come into play until like more than an hour in, maybe even longer than that. So it's just like for the first part of it, it's kind of more like... kind of like you said, like a gangster adventure drama, kind of, you know what I mean? So they're just kind of like setting the characters up, and it's just this kind of, but the supernatural stuff is also always kind of like lurking in the background, because it has like a sort of like magical realism element to it. And for real, like I was thinking this, and then I went back and watched some stuff about like some people talking about like all the symbol in this, because this movie has like so many layers and like so much stuff going on. You don't have to know all this shit like to watch the movie, but it makes the experience like a lot richer. But Sammy's character, who I don't even know if I call him the main character, because this is a big ensemble cast, but he's kind of like the heart of the movie, I guess. And I was thinking that his story was kind of based on Robert Johnson, the real blues man who, the legend goes he sold his soul at the crossroads to the devil, like so he could play guitar like that. So, there's a long tradition in blues music of people selling their soul. And
Mississippi's has always been a paranormally inclined culture. Yeah. Same with Louisiana and Alabama. And they lean into it in this movie. But the thing is that they don't abuse it. They leave it true to the character of Southern culture. This is a true Southern Gothic movie. I liked it. Yeah, I did too. And like I said, and it's cool. You know what? I liked all the vampire stuff, like I said, but that's really just happens like toward the end. Mm-hmm. Like, but I don't even know. Like, even if it didn't have that, this would still be awesome. Yeah. Just because all of the characters were so vivid and like you could cut the vampires out, it'd still be good.
Yeah, it would still be good. Like even if the vampires weren't in it. So it's just kind of like the closest, and it's a lot of people are kind of saying this, but the closest analog is probably From Dusk Till Dawn. Just because it's not really the same as that, but it's sort of like superficially the same, because obviously From Dusk Till Dawn was started out as a different type of movie, and then halfway through or whatever it becomes a vampire movie. Then it's like a siege thing where everyone's like inside of this strip club or whatever. So it's kind of the same thing happens here. Like the first part of the movie is just this long lead up. It's almost kind of like them you know, I'll get more into the plot like in a minute, but like the two of them like setting up this big grand opening for this juke joint that they're opening, and so them getting everybody together and them setting everything up, and then there's kind of magical shit like happening in the periphery, but it's not like a big thing. And then once you get to like the vampire part, it becomes kind of like more like a siege narrative where they're all like inside this juke joint and having to fight off like all the vampires that are coming. So in that sense, it's kind of like From Dusk Till Dawn, but it's not the same tone really. This movie is it has humor in it, but it's a lot more serious.
Tone is there with Damnation Alley. They called her
Nightmare Alley.
Nightmare Alley, yeah, Nightmare Alley.
Yeah, this
more
kind
like
of
that.
slightly reminded me of that, just because I guess it was set in the same time period, and it had a similar kind of vibe to it, where it was kind of like a drama, but then it had like kind of magical realism elements to it.
Criminal element and everything. And Smoke and Stack they're great characters through the whole movie. They're tough. They're real competent. They're real funny though, and they're trained. You know. So their prowess is explained by their combat history in World War One. They just do a lot of cool shit. Just shoot a dude in the ass for trying to steal his. Did in broad daylight. You shot me in the ass. He says, "Why'd you rob my truck?" Because I didn't know it was your truck. She told you it was my truck. I thought she was lying.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of just fucking.
I think the funniest thing was he said something along the lines of, because after he shot him and he recognized who it was that he shot, and then he's like, "Oh, how's your day going?" He's like, "Well, it was going a lot better before he shot me in the ass," or something like that. And I was like, so it's got funny stuff in it, like some of the shit they say is funny, but I wouldn't call it, because From Dusk Till Dawn is kind of more like a balls to the wall kind of, but whereas like I said, this is more. It doesn't go balls to the wall horror until like probably the final third of the movie, when it becomes like this big gory like siege kind of thing.
These two dudes come back from Chicago. They go back home to Mississippi, and they have enough money to start a nightclub.
Because they stole it from the gangsters. Well, if you didn't catch that, because I think it was just like an offhand remark. Remember how they said they had all that Irish beer and they had Italian wine? You know what they did was they stole from the Irish mob and the Italian mob, and then made the other ones think that it was that they did it. They double crossed them, and that's why they came back to town.
Yeah,
because they were in trouble.
Right. Well, fucking preacher boy said, "Oh, they don't have Chicago. They don't have Jim Crow up there," and he goes, "Yeah, you know." But as they blew that off, they don't believe everything you hear. You know what I mean? It's fucked up there too. You know. Because they were coming back from Chicago. They said, we prefer the devil we know.
Yeah.
So they went back to Mississippi. They're going to start this nightclub. And they heard Preacher Boy play, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna be playing that night. And they recruit another guy off the street. Stack runs into his ex-girlfriend, who was a quadroon chick, who was pissed that he left. She's still in love with him. That becomes a whole day. And then somewhere out in Mississippi, a dude looks like he was burnt up on fire, being chased by Indians. Tries to get his way into a house. They let him in. These two white folks let him in. And then the Indians, they were Choctaw. I guess they were Choctaw tribal police.
Yeah.
He came on horseback, all dressed in black with looking Indian decorations on him and guns. And the girl was just, like at this era, white people in general in the South, they're Scots-Irish. They're a mixture of Scotland and Ireland, and they brought a lot of their mentality with them. And they let the guy in. He had an Irish accent. They let him in. So they wouldn't give him up to the Indians, and the Indians were like, "Ma'am, I know, because you don't understand that man is not what he appears." And but they wouldn't let him in, so they left.
They're like, "Oh well, good luck with that.
It's your problem now." She went back to
go find him.
And he had already killed her husband, and the husband got up, fucking returned from the dead. And she's freaking out, and he grabbed her. Next time you see them, they're walking around with instruments and everything, and they've all got Irish accents.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to. What they do is they go to the nightclub where they had that nightclub they set up, because Rennick, the vampire, he wants Preacher Boy's fucking, basically his soul,
his mojo.
He wants to turn him into a vampire. And all kinds of details come out about the vampire over time. He's got to be ancient, or he has memories going way back, because he says he knew St. Patrick. That's Roman times.
Yeah.
And then he had some coins that look like Roman coins.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
he gives them to Mary, that quadrant girl.
Right.
He gives them to her.
So he's thousands of years old, or has memories going back that far. Turns out in this one, if you get turned into a vampire, you become part of a collective.
Yeah, like the Borg, kind
of. You all start sharing the same memories.
Yeah, like the same ancestral memories, like you have everyone else's.
Right. So he wants Preacher Boy's ancestral memories through the music that he can play, and if I remember correctly, he said that it exchanges, that he gets his too from Ireland.
Yeah, they would all get each other's.
They would all get each other's.
Yeah,
and doesn't go down that way though. They try to get into the club, but they have to ask permission to get in.
Yeah, because just like your classic vampires, they have to be invited inside. But like I said, I liked that they went, because I think that some people, I saw a couple reviews, and every review I saw of this, like, loved this movie because it's amazing. But one criticism that I saw was like, man, I wish they'd done something a little bit different with the vampire lore. I'm like, I don't think that would have worked, because this whole movie is about the power of ancestry, like collective memory, the power of music to like pass along information along generations and stuff like that. So it's like, I think it was better that they kept the vampire lore like classic vampire lore. So everything about the vampires in this is classic. They have to be invited inside. You can kill them with stakes and garlic and all that kind of stuff. So it's exactly the same as, Dracula, or even before that.
There's a bunch of symbolism though too.
And silver, you can kill them with silver.
A bunch of symbolism and allegory.
Yeah.
The message of the movie is very much, don't forget your ancestry, that you are your ancestry. No matter who you say, they established that with Africans, with the Irish and the Chinese in the opening part of this movie.
Yeah, because there's Chinese immigrants in this too that are also like part of the. They own a grocery store like in the town, and they come there like to help out and everything.
And when you become a vampire, in a way, you all become the same. You become a collective. So you don't really have individuality anymore. So there's not much diversity. You're all kind of the same. And they play on the angles here where they're saying that the vampires, one of their main tools of trying to get you to join them is that, they're saying this place here's got a lot of division and all this racial division.
Yeah.
If you join us, we'll all be
We're all one big family.
We'll be one family.
No matter what race we are and stuff like that.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and it's tempting. Like, a few of the people are tempted. It's like, yeah, this does kind of suck around here. Maybe I should, you know what I mean? But
you lose your individuality.
Yeah.
You're not who you are.
Yeah, you're not you anymore.
You're not you anymore. So, and that's kind of like, fucking globalism. You give up all your national identities to all become one thing, but now you're just all the same. You don't have any character anymore. And I think it was kind of like saying that, you know what I mean? That, you got to remember your history, where you come from, your ancestors, and also your descendants. So that was an interesting message. I liked that.
Yeah, and there was a lot of stuff in here too about, because like I said, I've even seen some people sort of call this a musical. It's not a musical in the sense that, because I kind of consider a musical like the songs tell the story.
Yeah.
This isn't really like that, but it has a lot of music in it, and music is like at the core of the story, I think, because like I said, the whole thing is kind of about ancestry and also about oral tradition, and I think music is a big part of that. And I liked the idea because one of the characters in here who was either Smoke or Stack's ex-wife or ex-girlfriend, Annie, and she was like a hoodoo practitioner, and they had this whole thing where they almost have music like an invocation, or like I said, it could kind of summon things forth. There's this great scene in here where the first time that Sammy, the kid, plays at the juke joint, and it just goes in this way, and it's like hard to describe it, but it's like really, really cinematic, and like all of these like stuff from the past and the future, like, and the present of, like, different kind of musicians and dancers and stuff like that. And it all kind of, like, weaves into all these people dancing. And it's crazy. It's just, like, it's a really, really good sequence.
And then one of the ones I liked, I guess they could... Preacher Boy is he's jamming out to with some blues, Delta blues. And the ghost of a future descendant is there in a 70s outfit, fucking with an electric guitar jamming out. I guess they couldn't get Jimi Hendrix's image. I kind of said that's probably like I think it might be talking about Jimi Hendrix. Although maybe you have to be directly related to him. I don't know. I think they just I think they're just part of your ethnic group. I think is what it was. I don't think you had to be directly related to any of these people.
He looked more like Bootsy Collins, I thought.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. What band was that from?
Well, Bootsy Collins was just kind of his own thing, I think.
He was a solo performer?
I mean, he might have, but did he play with bands? I don't remember. But,
Tasha Bell says she liked it. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, where? I don't know where he was. High Desert said my sister saw it and said it was good. I don't know. I just kept thinking about it, like, on the way. And, like I said, the music and the score in this, like, the soundtrack/score in this was phenomenal. Like, did I add this soundtrack/score to my Spotify? Yes, I did. Yeah. And actually, we came home and listened to a bunch of it, like, on YouTube, just because it was. And there's another great scene that happens outside the juke joint because, like, all the people that he's turning into vampires, and then he starts doing, like, this whole Irish. What are they doing? Rocky Road to Dublin, and like all the vampires are dancing. He's doing like the Irish.
He's doing a jig
kind of thing, and it's like, but it's vampires, and it's like, it's fucking awesome. Yeah, it's so good.
It's everybody liked it too. Everybody loved that fucking.
What a great sequence that was.
Yeah, it's just this creepy ancient Irish vampire, fucking singing that song. He starts slow, and then slowly all the other vampires start fucking joining in as they go fucking crazy. And there's only 3 white ones. The rest of them are all black. And they're singing along with it, you know, like, because they've all become part of the same collective.
They have his
similar memories, so they're getting off on it in the same way. But like I said, you're no longer really an individual anymore. You're a collective, like the Borg.
Yeah.
And in a way, I think there was also an allegory for the Klan, because the Klan was a collective too.
Yeah.
So, you know, they were just kind of like the Borg.
The Klan gets theirs in here too.
They didn't really have individual identities. They were just going along.
Yeah, with all their little white hoods and shit. But yeah,
in the end, fucking.
Well, the Klan kind of plays a part in this too, because when Smoke and Stack, that's not their real names, by the way. They're nicknames. Their real names are Elijah and Elias. But when they first come back to Mississippi with all the money they fucking stole from the gangsters, they want to start a juke joint. So they stole like a bunch of money and they stole a bunch of booze, because that was still Prohibition, right, 1932. Yeah. So they come back and they buy this old sawmill from a dude named Hogswood, who they don't know this at the time. They suspect, but they don't know. But then they find out later that he's like the Grand Dragon, and it was like this whole setup and everything. But it's like they don't know that until later on. But yeah, so the Klan ends up getting fucked up at the end, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, so there's just like, here's the thing. I cannot believe... I mean, I guess because Ryan Coogler has been behind, like, some huge fucking movies that made, like, a bunch of money, like Creed and the Black Panther movies, they let him do whatever he wanted. Like, he had, like, complete creative control over this movie. I don't think they fucked with it in any way or anything like that.
Just goes to show you.
And I was... And, like, on the way home, I said, God, this was a ballsy movie for a major studio to release. And this was a long movie. It's, like, 2.5 hours. It cost, like, $90 million to make. Yeah. It's making all of that money back.
It's outperforming.
Because it's outperforming what they thought. But I said, for something like this... that is technically a horror movie, but really it's a genre bending. It's not really...
It's rated R.
It's not really any one thing.
It's a rated R horror movie with a damn near all-black cast that was not really promoted as a horror movie, and I don't think most people knew it was a vampire movie.
I thought some of the trailers showed that. At least that's what I heard later, that they were saying that it was a vampire movie. Because I thought when I was watching... Cody Leach, and he really dug this movie too, but he said that the trailers had said that it was a vampire movie. And so he was saying, don't go into this thinking it's going to be like a traditional vampire movie, because it's not really a vampire movie until the end. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a different kind of movie up until then.
But it's Southern Gothic through the whole thing.
But it's I would call it
voodoo in it and spirituality.
I would call it a Southern Gothic.
Yeah.
With vampires.
Yeah.
Is probably what I would call it.
Tasha Bella, she mentioned it, that it has an excellent soundtrack. I was listening to the soundtrack on YouTube.
Yeah, we were watching. Yeah, and I added it to Spotify.
Yeah.
Today too.
Yeah, all the vampire music's fucking Irish.
Yeah, it's like all Irish folk. There's a lot of bluegrass in this too.
Yeah, Irish and blue, which bluegrass is Irish American.
Yeah, it's like
Celtic music.
When Irish people moved here, that was like they kind of crossbred with.
Yeah, well, the Scots were doing it too.
Yeah,
the Scots Irish. They were just kind of. It got a little bit slightly Americanized up in Appalachia and down in the South, and it became bluegrass. But you definitely hear it. It's the same instruments. It's the same vocal style. But you see, bluegrass and that Irish music was related in many ways to blues. And then it ended up kind of fusing back in with rock eventually later. Because some of that, like, if you actually listen to Rocky Road to Dublin, it's a rap, basically.
You could technically call it that, yeah.
And they had a lot of stuff like that in Celtic music, because it's just rhythm. Although they had melody and harmony over, too, in certain places, but it was basically real rhythmic. And the vampire is a musician, and he wants to start to try to blend all this stuff together, all these different kinds of music. It's wild, and I liked the lore.
And some reviewers that I saw were talking about it. It's like they were kind of talking a little bit about cultural appropriation of black music, which has happened a lot. And there's even a line in this. I think it's Delroy Lindo is in this, by the way, as a old blues musician named Delta Slim, and I don't even know if I want to say he steals every scene that he's in, because everybody in this is so good, but he kind of steals every scene that he's in. He's fucking so good in this. I loved him in this. He's probably, I don't know, I was gonna say he's probably my favorite character, but I don't know. Like, everybody in this was.
I don't really buy into the appropriation thing, because in Mississippi, everybody knew everybody else's music. Everybody influenced everybody else's music. Because Mississippi Delta blues was actually kind of taken from bluegrass. Same instruments also. It was just the African American version of it. The culture was almost the same. Sharecroppers and black sharecroppers and white sharecroppers lived the same way, and intermarried. So, it's just like Elvis with rock and roll. Well, he was hanging out with black guys over there in Tupelo. It was the same area, and that was the music he grew up with. So. And a lot of Southerners didn't like that. They thought that was black music, but he came from a black area.
Yeah. But what I was saying, though, is that there was a line in the movie that Delta Slim says, where he was talking about he got taken to this place where all these rich white folks to play like some blues music.
Yeah.
And he makes a comment, and he's like, yeah, the white people like the blues music. They just don't like the people that make it.
Yeah, don't like it. Yeah.
So, so there is a thread of that running throughout. But like I said, I wouldn't call it a musical, but like music is like a huge part of the plot. And like I said, it's almost used like I said, kind of like a link with your past ancestors, as like, because, that's how, before there was written language, before there was anything like that, when it was still an oral tradition, that's how a lot of information and history was imparted, like through music, because that's easy to remember.
It was a musical in the way that Romeo and Juliet is a musical, and the Elvis movie. It's just that songs happen.
Yeah.
But it's part of the story. Yeah, and they're covers. Although some of the shit's fucking original. Because during the action scenes with vampires, it becomes black metal. With fucking satanic, fucking operatic vocals and chanting and shit. It's fucking hardcore. Yeah, it's really good.
And it totally all works. It's just like, I really, really like.
It goes from blues to black metal to fucking Irish fucking folk songs and
but
shit.
It flows really well. Yeah. Like, I think they did a really good job.
You don't notice it.
Not really.
Just kind of,
And the kid, I wanted to call him a kid. He's probably not a kid, but to me, he's probably a kid. The guy that plays Sammy, Miles Caton, I think is how you pronounce his last name. This is his first acting role, because he's actually a musician, and he did actually sing all of those songs in this movie. I don't know if I'd call him necessarily like a child prodigy, but I think he started touring as an R&B musician when he was like 16.
Yeah.
So, and because I was wondering, because I was like, it seemed like a lot of the actors in this were singing their own stuff, and I think they were, because Jamie Lawson was in this and she sings in it, and that's amazing. And one of the guys, not Remick, but the other guy vampire, like, because it was him and like the guy and the woman, I think he's in a band too. So it's like, so a lot of them were singing their own stuff, because a lot of them are musicians also, like a lot of the actors.
But this is
that are
definitely the top 2 American vampire movies, if you ask me, for southern style. They're up there with Interview with the Vampire, the movie, and Tom Cruise. I think it's up there, but maybe better.
Yeah, I mean, this...
I could tell that he watched fucking Blackula and Blackula Scream, too. Because those were also Southern Gothic vampire movies. That inspired Anne Rice to write the novels the way she did, because that was the first time they ever talked about vampire culture. How would you actually live as a vampire?
Yeah.
Can you go out at night? Can you party? No. They'll follow you back home and kill you. So, no. But...
Got to keep on the...
Yeah, and that vampires were actually slave masters, basically. And Momo who was a black vampire, Blackula, and Dracula named him that to curse him. He became what he hated because he was trying to stop slavery. But he became basically a slave master. He was fucking making slave vampires out of black people and white people. But he became what he hated. He was a self-hating vampire, kind of like Louis.
Louis, yeah.
Kind of like Louis, yeah.
Well, yeah, you can see where the influence like came in. That's why I would argue that like Blackula is like way better, and Blackula really Scream too. I mean, it's like way better. Like, I know the title sounds kind of cheeseball, but it's like it's really like
shitty title. They're sensationalized fucking title.
Well, it was that era.
It was the era.
They had to call it that.
Yeah, they're well written.
Because it sounds like super silly, but when you watch it, you're like, wow, this is actually like a really good, movie. Serious horror movie.
Great fashion in it.
Yeah.
The girls are just dressed gorgeously, like 70s outfits are really cool.
But I mean, the thing about, okay, so this movie, I would be shocked if this was not nominated for all of the things.
Oh, it's going to get all kinds of stuff.
Because this is a film. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is the kind of shit where, because some movies, it's like it doesn't really matter. You can watch it at home on your laptop or whatever, and it's like not that big a deal. This movie, I feel like you need to see it big.
Yeah.
Like because they shot it for IMAX. And actually, if you didn't notice, the aspect ratio changed sometimes. Like, depending on what was going on. Like, sometimes it was super, super wide, and sometimes it was super, super tall. Okay, like, depending what was going on. Because they shot this specifically for IMAX, which is more expensive, but that's what he wanted to do. So, I mean, the cinematography in this is just gorgeous. Every frame of this movie is gorgeous. And it just looks amazing. It sounds amazing. And I just think it's so cool that a movie this... It's not... I don't want to say weird, but it's just... You don't really see movies that blend genres this way, this successfully. And it's kind of an off-the-wall idea, but it totally works. And I'm actually really happy that people really seem to be resonating with this movie. I mean, it's doing, like, way better than they thought it would. Yeah, it was kind of expensive to make.
It was packed.
But it just goes... Our theater was full.
It was packed, yeah.
And we went on Sunday, like, to the big IMAX theater, and it was... I think it was almost completely full. Mm-hmm. And we heard the kid that was cleaning it up, he said the show before was sold out.
Yeah.
So it's been doing, like, way better than they were expecting.
Yeah, mixed audience, probably about half and half, white and black. Everybody loved it.
Yeah. And the demographics, they said this is... It's cool because it's like really appealing to a very diverse audience.
And we're watching this in Florida, which is like the sophisticated part of the South, I guess you say. We're like on the DMZ. We're almost in Central America, but so you got a lot of people from the Panhandle here, and it's a similar outside of Orlando. It's a similar kind of culture of what Mississippi would be.
Yeah,
out in the sticks, not quite as redneck, but similar.
Some parts are totally
this movie very popular. Yeah. And, fucking the two main characters are fucking, you know what I mean? They're very magnetic. Fucking Jordan fucking, he looks great, man. His physicality is very good. I mean, I'd say he's probably bigger than Wesley Snipes physically. And just got kind of a charming, cool personality. And the way they were dressed up was fucking cool. They had cool weapons. At the end, he gets a fucking Browning automatic rifle with a bipod on it. He's out in the woods to engage the fucking... So he does it like you'd really do it in the infantry. You don't go down there with them and fight them. You go fucking 200 yards away.
Just pick them up
and
from
blast
the
them. Yeah, he was hiding in the wood line. Then he runs down there and he had a fucking Thompson submachine gun stashed. And he pulled that up and went into a fucking assault inside the kill zone. Killed a bunch of other ones. He got shot, though. I'm going to leave it at that. You're going to see how it happens. Now, later on... The Stack as a vampire with his ex-girlfriend, Quadroon chick, they live until they survive all this.
That's another thing.
You gotta stay there.
You have to stay through the credits because there are like two... There's a mid-credit sequence, and then there's another sequence at the end that kind of jumps ahead a long time. And I want to say, like, fucking... Okay, so Sammy's character, who is like, how old would you say he is in 1932? Like, he's probably like, I don't know, he looks like 17, 18, something like that. Yeah. But they jump ahead to the 90s, and his adult form is played by motherfucking Buddy Guy. They got Buddy Guy to play him.
All right,
as an old man.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like super fucking cool. That, like, you know what I mean? So this, I mean... There's just, I don't know. I kind of want to see it again because, like I said, there was so much going on that I'm sure that I missed.
It's just a top vampire movie.
You know?
A Southern style vampire movie. Real good.
Yeah. But like I said, I almost feel like just calling it a vampire movie is kind of...
There's more to it now.
Selling it short because there's so much else going on. And like there's so much going on before you even get to the vampires.
There's even voodoo in it.
Yeah,
the medicine bag.
Well, I guess hoodoo technically,
hoodoo,
which is slightly different.
Yeah, and his girlfriend, when she first sees the vampires, at first she thought they were haints.
Yeah,
which is a person possessed by a ghost, not a ghost, but a person possessed by a ghost. Then later she realizes they had to ask their way. They keep asking to come in,
and she's like, "That's
a vampire."
She's like, "That's pretty weird.
That's a vampire." Yeah. She figured it out.
I was watching a video where somebody was like pointing out like a lot of the symbolism and stuff, and they said that Annie's character is always wearing blue because that's a real thing. It's called Haint Blue.
Okay.
And they wear it to ward off evil spirits.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like in that folklore. So they really like the costuming and like everything about this. I think the same woman did the costuming for this that did Black Panther. Because Ryan Coogler works with the same, because Michael B. Jordan has been in, I think, almost all of his movies, and I think he's used the same guy that did the score and the same costume designer and everything like that. So he tends to work with all the same people all the time. But yeah, so much went into the costuming and like the symbolism of that I feel like this is one of those movies that you need to see a bunch of times and like look into all the lore.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much going on.
And then the way the music relates to stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that too.
Even the song that the vampire was singing, the Rocky Road to Dublin, had... I looked at the lyrics, and it has a lot of references to supernatural stuff, that he has to cut a blackthorn. He's leaving his home to go to Dublin. It's like it's the promised land. Yeah. It's a dangerous trek in the song, the lyrics. He's got to fucking get he's got to cut himself a club to protect himself from goblins and ghosts on the way. Him just leaving the town, all the women are broken. You know, they're dying of broken hearts because they're gonna miss him. Because of course he's a stud. You know what I'm talking about? Fucking, and he's got brand new shoes to walk all the way there. And then when he gets there and all kinds of shit, he even gets on a ship for a while and gets seasick. He wished he died. And then when he gets where he's going, he gets attacked by English dudes and he whips all their asses with a fucking shillelagh.
As you do.
So, you know, it's just kind of like... that was kind of like the Irish version of blues.
Yeah.
You know, of having to go, because there's a lot of fucking parallels between the blues, black Southerners in the blues, and Scots Irish or Irish people, and fucking bluegrass music and Irish.
Well, in a way, even though Irish people are white, obviously, when they first came to the U.S., they were not considered white.
And they were slaves. The first ones that showed up.
So they were shit on.
Yeah.
In a kind of similar fashion.
They started off as slaves. The first ones, I don't know how they got enslaved. The first few batches of them. That didn't last long. Then they became indentured servants, which was about like that too.
Some of them agreed to go into slavery just for passage across the Atlantic.
Yeah, and they were garbage. They were fucking garbage when they got here. I have direct ancestries through the fucking counties, fucking Jones County. It's considered Scots Irish. If you're white, your family's been there for a long time. Mine goes back to pre-Civil War. You're a mixture of the Scots, the Irish, and maybe some German. Maybe some French. Maybe some Spanish. Because Spain and France owned the place first. But nobody wanted to be Irish. If you had any Irish names, you got rid of them. You changed them out for Scottish names and English names. Because in the culture of the day...
Yeah, nobody much liked the
If
Irish
you were in
names.
the South and you were Irish... I mean, it said right there in the newspaper, you were only good. The men were only good for thieving and criminals, and the women were only good for hooking. That's basically what they said about them.
Yeah, Tasha Bella says, "Yep, no blacks, no Irish." I remember the signs. Yeah.
So it was.
I remember seeing those too.
American Southern culture had a lot to do with conforming, and you didn't want to be Irish, okay? You wanted to be Scottish. That would be a lot better. And take an English name, even though there was a big. If you look, you can look through. You could probably ask Grok about in the Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana area. Only rich people came from English backgrounds, and those were the plantation owners. So, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama and Tennessee and Kentucky slightly were kind of like recreations of the UK in a weird way. The English, the Irish, the descendants of the English, the Irish, and the Scots were still here with a lot of all their bad habits about abusing each other. It was just a different time, though. Things had changed, but the culture kind of didn't. And then when you talk about the clan, they're talking about the Scottish clans. It was just a different interpretation of they're taking the Scottish clan mentality, and their clan warfare had been going on in Scotland for fucking centuries. And after the Civil War, those same Scots-Irish families want to continue to fight the Civil War against the North and Catholics. That was another thing too. They didn't like Catholics.
They did not.
So the clan was fighting mostly Catholics and federal people, a lot of the shit the Klan was famous for, lynching people and shit. The Klan didn't do that; just regular Southerners did it. And then the Klan jumped out saying, "Yeah, we're
a lot of them were cops too."
Yeah, a lot of them were cops. Yeah,
I wrote about a lot of cases like that.
If you really want to honestly look at the South, the Klan were fucking assholes. But so were the Klan was really just a representation of just kind of the average Southern person, really.
Yeah, because a lot of them were assholes.
They were assholes too.
You didn't have to be in the Klan to do that shit.
What they would do is if somebody got accused of committing a crime against a white person, they couldn't handle it. I mean, they'd fucking go berserk and form a huge lynch mob and fucking grab a guy and just lynch him in public, just hang him for something that they thought he did. And maybe he did do it, or maybe he didn't do it. Sometimes if a person got convicted and they didn't like what the person was convicted from, they'd rush into the fucking courthouse after the guilty verdict, pull him out of the cell and hang him.
Yep, that happened quite a bit.
And that wasn't the Klan, that was regular people. And then the Klan would show up in their little outfits saying, "Yeah, the Invisible Empire, we did this." They tried to take credit for it.
Yeah.
Which, they did do some shit, but...
Yeah, I mean, technically it was the same mindset.
Yeah, it was the same kind of shit.
Tomato.
It was just mob mentality.
Oracle says, "Haint blue was a popular door color in Charleston, South Carolina when I was living there." And then Tasha Bella says, some houses in the South paint the tops of their house porches paint blue. And she's in Memphis.
Yeah, she's in Memphis. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
How long you been in Memphis? You were born and raised in Memphis?
Yeah, I don't know. I just remember she said that she was in Memphis before. But yeah, so I had heard of that before, but it didn't occur to me that that's why they were dressing her in that color until... Yeah. But there was a whole thing with like this little like protection bag that she made for him and all this other kind of stuff. Like I said, there was so much fucking... And, like, when I was watching some of the other reviews and, like, reading some of the comments under the YouTube videos, like, some people were pointing out, like, all these little details in there that I didn't notice. Like, did you notice, like, at the end, like, when he was sitting on the thing with all the guns and grenades and he was about to fuck up the Klan?
Yeah.
And he couldn't roll the cigarette?
Yeah.
You know why that was? Because his brother did it for him all the time.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's why. Yeah. And he couldn't do it.
He didn't know how to roll.
He didn't know how to do it. And I was like, yeah, that's right. He never rolled one himself. He always asked for one.
Yeah, okay.
From his twin brother.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow.
There's a lot of little details have to go back.
Like, there's all these little bitty details in there like that. Like I said, is in the costuming, even like some of the dialogue that just seems like a throwaway line. Like, I don't think a single line in this is wasted, and I don't think a single scene in this is wasted. Like, everything has like greater meaning to it.
It's just a very, very well crafted movie. All the little details, everything covered. Very authentic. Yeah, and great to watch, man. Great to watch.
Yeah, I got like totally enraptured.
Yeah.
Like into it. And it was cool because the theater was full, but everyone was quiet.
Yeah.
Like, no one was obnoxious. No one was making noises. Like, people would react to stuff. Like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, the scenes and stuff. But nobody was talking or being annoying or anything.
Yeah. Now, Stack, I like how they kind of examined his ex. All right. When his ex first showed up, Preacher Boy says, man, there's a white woman looking for you. She goes, white? He goes, you sure she's white? He goes, yeah, I think so. He realized it was his ex, and she was quadroon. Her mom was half black.
Well, and I think that actress in real life, I've seen her in a bunch of other stuff. I think that is her actual ancestry.
Okay, so, but she passes as she presents as white.
Yeah, she is white passing, as they would say.
So he avoids her, and you're like, what the fuck is the problem? You know, it turns out the dudes. Even though these dudes technically are bad guys, they're heroes. Because they're criminals, but they're heroes. A lot of the shit that they do is pretty heroic.
Well, like I said, they have an honor code.
Yeah, they had an honor code. He loved her. But like I said, you didn't want to be Irish. Well, you didn't really want to be black either. Okay? So he loved her, and what he did was he hooked her up with a white husband.
Yeah.
And
like a wealthy.
Yeah, and fucking, he sent her to the white people because he thought she'd be safer there.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty fucking... a selfless act when you think about it. Gave up the love of his life for her safety.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty fucking heroic.
Yeah.
He gets it, and she's married when he comes back looking for her.
Yeah.
Or when she comes back looking for him, she's still married.
Yeah. They never show the husband, though.
Yeah. She gets killed, though, and gets turned into a vampire, along with him.
I think they show that in the trailer.
Yeah, they showed it, yeah. And then they remain a vampire couple.
I thought that was kind of cool.
All the way into the modern era. So he did get her.
Oh, that was kind of cute.
It just got her vampire style later.
I got you vampire style.
Yeah, I got her vampire style. That was kind of a beautiful love story in a certain way.
I know, it kind of was.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
60 years later. Tasha Bella said, I was born in Cynthiana, Kentucky, but I've lived in Memphis since the mid-1980s.
Okay.
My dad was in the Army.
Okay.
Grew up in a small country town in Tennessee called Brownsville.
Yeah, you're Southern as shit then.
Yeah.
You white, black, mixed? What's your ethnic group?
Yeah, my dad's side of the family are from Springfield, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Where I've been there a couple times, but not many years, though. Yeah, Ray says Smoke could barely roll a cigarette because his hands shake too badly. They shake multiple times throughout the movie. That's why Stack always did it.
PTSD.
They would never get to smoke. Yeah.
You're talking about shell shock.
Yeah, because they were both World War I veterans, which I kind of like, though, that all of the characters obviously had like really rich backstories.
Yeah.
But they just kind of hinted at it.
Yeah.
Which to me was kind of cooler because it's like they didn't show anything as flashbacks. They didn't it was very organic, like the way everything was presented. They didn't like exposition dump or anything like that. It was just kind of throwaway comments and stuff, and you kind of built up an idea of everybody's history just from like the conversations they had with one another. Like I said, it was very natural.
Yeah.
The way it was done, like real people would do it. Like I said, they didn't have like big exposition or anything like that. It was just kind of like, so it was all kind of hints that you kind of had to figure out like what they did before, because they didn't like show any of it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of, Tosh Bella says Black, Cherokee, and English.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people just don't understand the South. When they see the South, they're just gonna think of white people and black people. No, it's a lot more complicated than that. There was a whole, almost like racial caste system. You had octoroons, quadroons. You had the Brown Paper Bag Society. At certain times in Mississippi, probably Louisiana also, and Alabama, our professional class were all. The professional middle class were the Brown Paper Bag Society. They were mixed people, and because most of the white people worked in the fields or they did other fucking mechanics and shit like that. But a lot of your artisans and skilled people were skilled artists, furniture makers, fucking clock makers, and people that made clothes, and were what they called them Brown Paper Bag Society. In order to join it, you had to be the same color or lighter as a brown paper bag.
Yep.
And it was kind of like, everything was kind of like an ethnic gang. And the fucking standard of beauty was a lot different. I mean, you can go back and you look into time, what most white guys were looking for was quadroon and octoroon women. They had a big thing for that. They just thought they were just hot as shit. They had women in New Orleans pretending to be octoroons. That's how popular it was. They were faking black ancestry, even though they were just red-haired Irish girls. It's just the way it was, the culture of the time. That goes back 1700s, 1800s.
I like too that in this movie they also address the because they have a couple that are Chinese immigrants. Because that was also something that there were a lot of Chinese immigrants in the Mississippi Delta in this time period, especially after slavery, the end of slavery. And then they were trying to hire Chinese immigrants to do the stuff, and it's just kind of like, that didn't work out. So a lot of them ended up owning grocery stores, which they do in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's cool because they're Chinese, but they kind of have Southern accents, too. And I thought that was kind of cool because that was kind of period accurate.
Yeah. What they would do, and some say they may do it to this day. Black people tended not to have very good credit with the bank. The Chinese did.
Yeah.
So the Chinese could get loans and have a credit. They had good credit, so they could buy stock and have it kind of like held in escrow before it was sold. Okay. Or fucking they could borrow stock using their bank accounts. On a credit line, a business credit line. Some say it was kind of like fucking underhanded banking practices as an attempt to make sure black people didn't make any money.
Yeah.
To get money out of the black communities instead of letting them accrue it inside the community. I don't know. It may have been a little bit of both. Could have been that there wasn't enough work history there for a lot of black people, so they couldn't get a line of credit. The Chinese could get a line of credit. I don't know exactly because I wasn't there, so I can't explain it. But it had the effect of draining money away from the black community. Now, there's another thing that fucking would happen, and people don't like to hear this. Some of those plantations were black owned. This is during the time of slavery, so this is before this movie's taking place. Some of the plantations were black owned, and the black guy who ran the plantations, some of the slaves on the plantation were his relatives, which sounds like how the hell do you enslave your own relatives? The banking system had a lot to do with it. If you owned slaves, you could take a loan out against them to help pay for the farm. So the people weren't going anywhere; they were family members. So they go, hey, you know what? Let's just say you're a slave, and I'll get a loan up against you. I'll put a lien on you, and we'll be able to buy more land. So it was that kind of shit. But technically on paper it was slavery.
Right.
Slavery to get credit lines, I think.
But another thing too that going back to what I was saying about the Chinese immigrants is that a lot of times they would open businesses and they would cater to the black community when the white community would not.
Yeah.
So that was also period accurate to this movie because, like I said, they were kind of friends with them, and
the white people would feel that they were going to get robbed.
Right.
So
also
in the 30s, the 20s, and the 30s, the race war that was going on at that time was pretty intense. If you look back in history, when slavery was going on, the relationships between whites and blacks was actually better between the free whites and free blacks. All right. They could marry, and they did marry. It wasn't until after slavery they started with all the Jim Crow laws trying to keep everybody separate and shit. And because they were trying to stop all the interbreeding that was happening. Because they were all sharecroppers. And you had white families and black families working together, living right next to each other, and the teenagers would knock each other up.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was...
The teenagers was
broke.
Yeah, they're all broke.
We're all just broke teenagers.
So all these, pretty mixed people jumping out, you know what I mean? And people trying to marry them. And rich white people, a lot of them from out of the state, wanted to stop all that. And they used Jim Crow laws to stop all that. Make sure you couldn't marry black people. Even Bass Reeves, he was a black lawman.
Yeah, we did a whole last show about him.
He said he could arrest white people all day long and do all kinds of shit in the time of slavery. As soon as slavery was over, man, he couldn't even arrest white people.
It was a lot harder.
A lot harder.
Yeah, we talked about that.
The race relations
when we did that
real
show
bad.
about him.
Yeah, race got real bad, especially in the South, because the South had lost and fucking in certain areas, black people were the majority, but the white people there weren't very many of them, but they owned a lot of land, they had a lot of money. So they were afraid of reprisals and losing their wealth. So they did everything they could to try to win elections. They'd rig fucking elections. They did try to fucking scare black people into not voting, all kinds of shit. Which the Klan would come into that. They'd do that, or help them do that.
Yeah. Tasha Bella said Anne Rice has a good book called Feast of All Saints. Yeah, I read that a long time ago. I think I have it somewhere. I should probably reread it. I was gonna, you know what? One of these days I need to reread all her shit because it's been like such a long time. Because I've read like pretty much all of her books, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we'll definitely. This is definitely one I want to buy because I need to see this again. Because, like I said, there's so much going on in there. I just, like, scratched the surface because there's already a bunch of videos out. I mean, this movie's only been out a few weeks, but there's already a bunch of videos out, like, pointing out, like, all the history, all the symbolism. And I think if you go to the movie's website, there's, like, a bunch of other backstory. Like, I think there's all of these... there's, like, newspaper articles about, like, a mysterious ship that landed that they're implying was where Remit came from. You know what I mean? Like, where he came, like, how he got here and stuff like that. So it's like there's all kind of extraneous stuff that you can look into. But obviously there's, like, whole backstories. Like, there's whole backstories behind every single one of the characters. And they don't harp on it too much in the movie. There's just, like, hints of it. But I think that's really cool. But, like, there's... If you, like, listen to the dialogue and stuff like that, it's like hints of a larger story, which I think is really... I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, my final verdict is I thought it's a great movie, man. Well crafted. I give it 10 out of 10. A very good Southern Gothic movie. Fucking vampire movie. I'm putting it up there with fucking Interview with the Vampire. I put it up there with that. In some ways, it's not a copy of it. In some ways, it's better. Ballsy movie. Almost all black cast. R-rated.
And not really one genre.
Not really one genre. Okay. But you would think that wouldn't do well at the box office, that white people wouldn't go see it. No, white people are going to see it. They like it. Even though there isn't a single good white person in this. They're either vampires or Klan. That's it.
I mean, Mary was okay, but she wasn't 100%.
She wasn't 100% white. Yeah, Mary was okay. Yeah, but no, they were all villains. But that's really that's what the movie's about. It's about fucking some black people that get attacked by vampires and Klan. Okay. So, you didn't need any good white people in the movie.
Yeah, not really.
But the villains are good. Villains are good too. Fucking the Rennick, the ancient Irish vampire. That's a very good representation of the vampire lore. It fits lore. The vampire lore fits fucking Southern Gothic lore. Everything. Blues lore. Mississippi Delta lore. The culture's correct. Fucking got people in the comments that are also Southern, across all different racial divides. That's the way the South pretty much was. Yeah. Yeah, that's you know, and it's true to the South for that time. For that time, yeah.
Tasha Bella said, I kind of wish they did more with the Choctaw. Yeah, I mean, they were only in one scene. And then Tasha Bella, yeah, I just remember reading about this.
Well,
I do remember the Choctaw sent money to the Irish during their famine. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and which may have something to do with that. Because
that's why it was significant, I think, that it was the Choctaw chasing the Irish guy.
They were chasing him from North Carolina.
Yeah, they said he came from North Carolina,
yeah,
right?
And that's fucking heavily Irish area in those days. That's, you know, fucking Appalachia type place, you know. Is Appalachia run through North Carolina? I think it does, though.
No, I can't even remember.
Doesn't? Okay, but...
I don't know. I said I can't even remember.
That was an Irish-American stronghold there. So he probably just fresh off the boat. Fucking vampire. And I think he had Roman coins. And he said something about knowing St. Patrick. Which that was during Roman times. Roman Christian times.
Yeah, so they're meant to imply that he's very, very old.
He was either ancient or he had ancient memories.
Yeah, because that was another thing, is that they did establish...
But he had the coins.
Yeah.
So he had to have been there.
Yeah.
I have to see it again. I think they were gold Roman coins. That's what they look like.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, because he didn't.
So that means he would have to have been there.
I would guess.
Yeah.
They looked like brand new too.
Yeah. Well, gold doesn't tarnish.
No, I know, but I'm just saying they looked like fucking. Yeah, just like I said, there's all those little details like that hint at a larger backstory, but they don't.
I had to see it again.
They don't harp on it.
No.
Which I think is good, because it's just
by.
You just kind of get all these little details, and then later on you're like, oh yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I love that. Like Remick was a good character because he was like. Every scene with him was like super tense. Like you didn't really know, because you never really knew what he was gonna do exactly. Like you knew he was a vampire, but sometimes they'd kind of like Legion, then he would just kind of start singing, or it's like you didn't really know like what was gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I thought he was like really, that was a really good character.
And the two white people he killed to turn them into vampires when he ran from the Choctaw, they were married. And they didn't have Irish accents, but later on they had Irish accents. And they could play all those instruments.
After he turned them.
After he turned them. So they must have inherited some of his memories, and he turned them into Irish people. They went back to their ancestral roots. Like
I thought that was the implication, because the whole theme in it of the music and everything like that, and the music piercing the veil, or like, you know, being able to contact ancestors and descendants. And I think that was what the implication was, because it seemed like they got more and more Irish as time went on, and I think that's like.
And they all became those two became good musicians. So they just absorbed his.
Yeah, because they didn't really say if they could.
They weren't musicians; they were fucking farming corn, weren't they?
I thought or something. Yeah. They just lived on a little.
Yeah, corn or cotton.
Like a little.
They were on a shack in the middle of a farm.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like they were a clan too.
Yeah, he has his clan uniform.
Yeah, because they saw it when he first came to the door.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I liked that whole the setup of the vampire. Like I said, if you go into it knowing it's a vampire movie, it's obvious. But when Remick first lands, it essentially looks like he just falls out of the sky, kind of like it's just like a sudden smash cut.
He was smoking too,
and he was kind of smoking, I guess, from fire from the sun or whatever.
Yeah.
But they don't really explain it. And then he just runs up to this house like, help me, like all these people are after me and all this other kind of stuff. And you don't realize it until later, but he won't, he can't come in the house, because they haven't invited him, right? Mm-hmm. So then, when the Choctaw come to the door, well, I hope you didn't invite him inside. But then they're like, yeah, we kind of did. They're like, oh, well, good luck to you, bye. You know what I mean? So there's that. But yeah, so I actually, like I said, I didn't watch any trailers. I knew it was a horror movie, and I knew who the director was, and that's about it. You know what I mean? Because I didn't really want to know anything about it. But from what I know, because I didn't watch any trailers or anything, but from what everyone's saying, the trailers actually do say that it's a vampire movie, so I guess that's not a spoiler. But like I said, don't go into it thinking that it's like a traditional vampire movie, or like a vampire movie. Like I said, the closest analog is probably From Dusk Till Dawn, but it's not exactly like that.
A lot more serious.
It's a lot more serious than that. But like I said, it's
Yash
similar.
is in there. He didn't like it, but just everybody's got their own opinion on it.
Yeah, I've seen a couple people that kind of whined about it, but it's like not that many.
I see it as a Southern Gothic vampire movie along the lines of Blackula, Scream, Blackula, and Scream, Blackula, Scream, and Interview with a Vampire. And I thought it was solid. I thought it was well crafted, well thought out.
It was very immersive.
It does not need a sequel. Don't fucking leave it alone.
Yeah.
Leave it alone. Just and it's good.
Yeah, don't, because I know how they want to make everything a franchise
no.
nowadays. Like
Right.
I know they do because ka-ching, but you know what I mean.
Had a great soundtrack. It had
Like I
good
said,
action scenes.
I put all that on my Spotify. Yeah.
And he's complaining it's a little bit about the past, but that's you're making a Southern Gothic movie.
That's
It's got to have voodoo. It's got to have.
That's kind of what a Southern
It's
Gothic
happening
is.
in the Mississippi Delta region. It's got fucking blues, and they're tying blues in with bluegrass and fucking Irish music, because it was all the same culture. It was just different ethnic groups and races in the same fucking culture in the South, at a certain, and they'd been there for centuries. They started showing up, in the 1600s, 1500s in some cases. So, but I thought it was solid.
Yeah,
I
but
saw some of those old fucking shacks, some of those old houses, and when I was a kid in fucking Laurel, Mississippi, I remember some of the houses being like that in the 70s. They're all gone now. But I saw those houses and I was in the theater and said, man, I remember when houses looked like that.
yeah.
Yeah. They looked like a pile of rust.
Yeah. I mean, I'm from the South too, so
Yeah.
but
Did they have those here in Florida?
not so much. It was slightly different. You did kind of see that kind of shit every now and then, but I don't know.
I remember when they had ice houses.
Yeah.
It looked like a fucking stable. You showed up there and they'd fucking squeeze a big old thing. They have a fire hose and they squirt it into the ground. And you'd stick a hook in there and pull it out. Or not a hook, a wire. Put a wire in there and pull out a big block of ice and give it to you for $1. You put it in your ice chest. And that shit was there to the 30s, man. The 20s and the 30s is when they were making ice houses. They had them when I was a little kid. But it was just to fill up your ice chest so you go fishing. All gone now. Gone.
Miranda says there's still shacks in Texas. I saw them as recently as 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's still shacks here too. Ben says, I just tuned in, yay or nay. I love this. I thought this was great.
Yeah.
Like I said, don't go into it. Like, this is a cinematic experience. Don't go into it just saying, oh, it's a vampire movie. Technically, it's a vampire movie, but there's a whole lot of other stuff going on. And like I said, I don't know, like, I liked everything about this, but I think the use of music was probably my favorite thing. The use of music and the acting in it, I think, was my favorite shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Big. There's a different kind of ice being made there now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking people say this isn't the Wild West. No, fucking the South is more dangerous than the Wild West ever was. South is more dangerous than this era. It's just the danger is different.
That's kind of... I saw a couple reviewers that kind of said this movie was like a Western. I'm like...
That's the way the South is.
Not well, yeah, but I'm like, technically it's not a Western because it's not out West. It's in the South.
The South was... The Dirty South is what it's called.
You know, like I said, it's kind of more a Southern Gothic, but also like a gangster movie.
Yeah.
And magical realism and vampires. And not a musical in the traditional sense, but music is a huge part of the plot. So there's a lot of that in there. So, like I said, it's kind of like a... I'm just amazed that a major studio put this out. Like, because I didn't realize it was Warner Brothers, and then I was like, wow, that was like, you wouldn't usually see a movie like this. Like an R-rated, I mean, it's a horror movie.
Yeah. A horror gangster movie.
Yeah.
About blues music and voodoo.
And it seems like it totally should not work, but it totally does.
Yeah.
Like I said, this was, because I even said that in the car on the way, I was like, this is a fucking ballsy movie for a fucking major studio to be putting out.
Yeah.
But I guess... I'm glad that that's paying off because maybe we'll get more good shit. You know? Instead of just...
Movies like this can only happen when you have kind of the vision of one person.
Yeah, and this is...
Committee.
Yeah, this is definitely Ryan Coogler's baby. I mean, he wrote it, he directed it, he co-produced it. You know, he's been wanting to do this movie for a while. So this is, I think, like the first movie that he's done that's based on his own original story.
I applaud it.
Yeah.
Good Southern Gothic vampire movie.
So yeah, so doing something like this, like I said, I hope we get more shit like this year because.
Yeah, it might be fucking shapes of things to come. Maybe we'll have good movies this year because past couple years have been not good.
Well, last year
it has some good ones.
Last year, I think, was one of the best years for horror. Like, I saw so many good fucking horror movies last year. So many good ones. Like, I don't ever do this, but I did a top 20 horror movies of 2024, and I had no problem coming up with 20. And then I saw a bunch more after that could have gone on the list, but I didn't see them in time.
I meant movies in general, not so much horror. You know what I mean?
Well, that's kind of mainly what I watched, so... That's kind of more.
Oh, The Substance was great. The fucking
God, that was so fucking good.
that was so the talk show, the
Late Night with the Devil.
Late Night with the Devil. There was a lot of good stuff. That was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was last year. Yeah, that was like early last year.
Yeah,
I think we saw that.
They had some good horror movies last year.
Yeah, like I said, I did a whole video about it. But then, like I said, I saw like a bunch of other movies that also came out in 2024 that I didn't see in time to put on the list.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So, just saying. But yeah, so
Nosferatu was also great. That was
yeah. That was really good too. That was also on my list. I'm trying to Strange Darling. That was on my list too.
I'm gonna buy that one. I'm gonna buy this one.
Yeah, I definitely want to buy because I want to see this one again. I want to like kind of savor this one.
Yeah.
And like get into all the. This is one of those movies that I just want to get into all the like history and symbolism behind everything, and get nerdy with it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Every now and then, like, I'll see a movie like that where I just want to get nerdy with all the fucking, all the stuff, like, behind it, you know? Yeah. I got like that with Hereditary and a couple other movies, but this is one of those ones. I think the most famous one was a long time ago, but was Mulholland Drive. I'll read a whole fucking website about that fucking movie. But you know what I mean? Yeah, he said, I think Strange Darling was the best movie. Yeah, that was in my top, that was definitely in my top 10 from last year. I really liked Strange Darling. Tasha Bella said, I believe the guy who played the vampire in Sinners is going to be in the second 28 Years Later movie. Yeah. He is. I heard that somewhere. I don't remember where. He's been in some other, like, I recognized everybody in this, but, you know. I'm excited about 28 Years Later, too. We'll see. But I'm going to watch 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. Like, I'll watch the ones going up before we can't see that. You know what I mean? All right, so are you ready to wrap it up? You seem like you've kind of gone quiet.
Yeah, well, I think we covered it.
All right, yeah, so seriously, like I said, don't go into it thinking, oh, it's just like a vampire movie. It's a whole...
So it's a bunch of stuff.
It's a bunch of stuff, but it totally works. At least it did for me, and it seems like it's really working for most people, which I'm really happy about. I would recommend seeing it in IMAX if you can afford it. I know it's expensive. Just me and him went to see it was almost $50. It's almost $50.
$50 for two people to go see a fucking movie. For two
people to go see the movie. We didn't get well, I mean, we bought candy at CVS beforehand, like we always do.
I cheat. I go there. I fucking bring my shit in.
We go and get the like 2 for $2 candy at CVS, like, and put it in my purse.
I get that old man candy.
He gets
Juicy Fruits and fucking Mike and Ike's and shit.
Nah, I get peanut M&Ms, man. Yeah. That's what I get.
Yeah.
But that's what we did. So I didn't even buy anything. But yeah, it was 47 something, like for 2 IMAX tickets. But it was. I mean, it was worth it.
It's worth it. It's a good movie
because it really needs to be seen on like a big, massive screen.
Yeah.
All right. So hopefully you guys can join us for the Wednesday night show because it's going to be another true crime one, and this story is fucking crazy. This is that serial killer Jack Unterweger, the Vienna Strangler. And I was watching some documentaries about this motherfucker earlier. Holy crap. This story's fucking insane. So yeah, this guy was a real fucking piece of work. Was a real piece of work. He's fucking dead now, but thankfully. But yeah, so that's what we're going to do the show about on Wednesday night. So hopefully you guys can join us for that. Thank you very much for hanging out with us this evening. And we'll see you guys again on Wednesday night. Good.